All right. Okay, sorry. I got the giggles right now. But welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Speak Your Mind podcast. My name is Tyler Smith, and it's my boy Riley Shan. What like you're having a baby? Well, not you having a baby. Keisha's having a baby. What's the summer gonna look like? Have you prepared mentally for having two children?
Um, no, because I feel still like I'm figuring out how to have one.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think you. I always say this. I don't think like you can. As a male, I think it's really hard to prepare. I don't think preparation is like in a male. Like what would you call that? Like our
Our
genetic
genetic.
buildup,
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, right now I'm just going with the flow, learning how to maneuver around one child. Two might be a whole different ballgame. That's what I've heard. I've heard it's harder, I guess, or heard it's like there's just no downtime. You just are kind of you're just paired up with a child and supposed to do work. So
Do you,
just do work.
uh, the fact that you were going to be the father of two children is just fantastic. Do you want a boy or a girl?
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care at all. I would. I mean, I'm gonna enjoy either. A girl would be nice. I'd like to have a little girl, I think. But also like two boys roughhousing it be that'd be pretty fun. Probably pretty rowdy at times.
Yeah.
Keisha might be in one, but no, I don't care, but I guess we'll just see. It'll be a surprise.
All right. All right. Well, that's hey, exciting times. I mean, I was
Yeah,
gonna ask.
our summers are gonna look a little different, eh?
I was gonna ask what your summer's gonna look like, but I can't imagine you're able to really maneuver around and go gallivanting too much because you have a couple people to protect.
Yeah. No, nothing crazy. Just gonna enjoy our new house and the weather. Would love to get a couple golf rounds in. We'll see how often that happens.
Just bring
Do
the
some
baby in the cart with you.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. That's like the thing on the internet now, right? They have like a golf like stroller that fits your golf bag.
Do it.
But I don't know if that would fly. But yeah, no, doing some strength and conditioning certification stuff. Would like to put that to work. And yeah, just enjoying the weather, but nothing crazy. What about you?
I love love, and love is in the air this summer. I think we have one wedding in July, one wedding in August. I think we possibly have four weddings in September.
Oof.
One in October. I have a bachelor party in Arizona in May. I have a bachelor party in Invermere in June. I have a bachelor party in northern Saskatchewan in August.
Jeez.
I have a golf trip in June. It's gonna be
Life on the
wild.
road.
Life is gonna be, yeah. I'm gonna really have to get a little airport routine going, but I'm starting to build my WestJet status, which is always exciting. It's something that I wish I would have thought about beforehand, but now I hope to be a proud silver tier member here shortly. But other than that, just oh man, just gonna be kicking it. Just I'm gonna try and golf as much as possible. I just got some new sticks, so I better put them to good use and might have an end up on the PGA Tour or the Live. I mean, if the Live wants to offer some cash, I'm
Good
probably
luck
not.
with that.
That was the most disingenuous good luck I've ever
I'm more
heard.
pumped that you're building up your WestJet points and that you might
Yeah.
get access to like the private lounge in the airport or something.
Oh man, that would be all time. Yeah, no, I think that would be something that it's just yeah, especially if you're traveling with somebody and you're like, hey, let's go to the lounge. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
you're kind of a big dog.
A nice coffee in the lounge.
Well, I mean, everything's free in there, so I would probably
Hmm.
do more than
Some
just a coffee.
some nuts maybe.
Some shoes, some cashews. Turning the page, flipping the coin. We are very proud, very honored to have. I believe I'm going to say her last name correctly, but we have Josie Balka from Calgary, Alberta. Actually, she is from Country 105, a radio station here in Calgary, and she's just an incredible human. I think we both just have so much respect for her. She is recently blown up in the social media world, in the poetry world, in the TikTok world. She is a writer, and she has done such a good job of conveying such relatable messaging through poems, through songs, through little messages that she's able to. It's just you got to check them out. I mean, there's a couple there that just hit, and she does such a good job of knowing that this is what people need. And we also just had such an extraordinary conversation with her about, just everything about life, her path, her journey, what's led her to where she's at now. And I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think it was nice, obviously, that to bring on somebody from good old YYC here in Calgary. But I mean, Josie's incredible. So, Raz, what do you think?
It was amazing. I mean, I said a couple times on the episode there must have been like dust in the kitchen or something, because I when you watch the videos they pull at your heartstrings. And yeah, she's just got a way with words, and obviously she's musically talented, but I think her poetry is what's caught on, and it's just such a weird time. I feel like nobody really talks about poetry and no one really aspires to be a poet, but she can do it and she pulls it off, and it's really impressive. So yeah, we enjoyed the conversation. She's really nice, really fun to talk to, and yeah, we had a good time.
We had a great time, and I thought you were going to transition into Taylor Swift and her new Poet album, but we'll leave that for another time. Anyways, enjoy this amazing episode. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your life. Speak your mind. Love yourself. We love you, and we hope you enjoy this one. So we'll see you next time. All right, Josie. I'm not gonna lie. Country 105 has been my jam lately.
Oh yeah.
As much as I kind of want to win the 10K getaway, but Kat and I got a couple more getaways, so I won't get too invested in the 10K getaway. But anyways, it is a pleasure to have you because I think you might be the most well-spoken human being in my world. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not here to, well, I am here. We're here to pump your tires. But, it is truly incredible to see, scrolling through TikTok and then all of a sudden hearing your voice come up in the TikTok audio. And I'm like, we know that voice. And it's just like, it couldn't have happened to a better human being. So we want to start from, you know, we kind of want to start from the beginning, and we obviously want to start and hear about your early radio days and everything. But yeah, I guess, like, have you always been this poetic, like writing, like just like
Oh yeah.
conversationalist? Like, have you always been this good with words? Like, I'm just truly curious.
I'm just like worried because when I'm doing that, I'm writing it out and then reading it. So this is going to be very different.
Oh
I'll be
yeah.
a lot less well spoken, but I've always liked it. Like I've always enjoyed writing, and I've been really bad at a lot of things in my life. Like I've been really bad at math and science and focusing and I don't know, just anything mechanical or methodical or anything like that. I've just been really bad with. And then with English and writing and songs and stuff and poems, I've always been really fast. And it's like the only thing I can do. So yeah, I guess ever since I was little, I was doing weird stuff like with poems and songs and rhyming. And it was pretty much my only talent ever. So I think that's probably why I'm so well practiced in it, I guess.
All right.
What about music? When did you get into music?
Little. Like my mom made me start taking piano lessons when I was 5, and she didn't let me quit until I was 15. So I was playing piano and that kind of stuff, and then with that I was wanting to write songs and figure it all out. But that musical thing also started when I was really little, and it was again one of the only things I would ever pass in school without help. So it was a good idea probably for her to keep me in there even though I fought it.
Yeah.
And like, the thing is, I look back and I'm like, I wish I didn't devote my whole life to hockey and like all of that. And like, in some ways, I like wish my parents were like, let's get you into guitar and let's get you into piano. But like, now in hindsight, like, how grateful are you for your mom, like keeping you in piano and like keeping you in the music scene?
I think your parents have like they know more than you think they do, and like when you get older, they and I would never say this to her, but when you get older, you realize, oh, okay, and like obviously, if your parents are keeping you in hockey, they're not paying for it because think it's fun. They're paying for it because they think you're good, right? And I think that my mom thought that I was good at it. And we used to fight, like scream fight. It was just the two of us living together, two girls, right? So we would scream at each other. I'd be like, I hate that. And she would be like, you're going to thank me one day. And then there was one day when I was a teenager and we were having one of our scream fights about the piano. And then she was like, fine. And I was like, all right, well, and then I actually did regret it. She told me I would, and I did. I was like this close to being at the next level where I could like actually use it in life. And I was out of spite. I was like, I'm done. But I
What
regret.
didn't you like about it? Like during that time where you were starting to like maybe bash heads a bit, what didn't you like from what you remember?
We bashed heads every time, and it was just the practicing. Like my mom would set an egg timer, and my mom's not strict. This is the only area of discipline in my life. But she would get the timer from the kitchen and put it for 20 minutes, and it would sit on top of the piano like tick, 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 and she'd sit in the next
Oh,
and wait for me to practice. And I'd have to be practicing the whole 20 minutes. And I guess I just didn't really like the discipline of it. And for the first time right now, I'm realizing how much that actually taught me. Because anything I've ever achieved was because I had discipline to get it done and like spend a little bit of time on it each day. So even more so right in this moment than ever before, I'm grateful. I didn't even realize that that probably would have played into it too.
Especially
all
with a
right.
musical instrument too, because like
Yeah.
it's hard, like when you get into like to playing music. I play guitar. I tried to play piano. Like it's such like a grind because you want to turn it on and just play. You know, like the songs that you think about in your head. But like you're really just starting with like bing 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 bing
Yeah.
bing bing. Like that's so it
It's
is
hard
definitely a
when you're getting taught to, like, I took guitar lessons recently. I was like, I think I want to learn how to play guitar better. So I joined guitar lessons like in September. And I explained to him I've been playing guitar alone for 10 years, but I just needed some help learning some stuff. But then it kind of starts out so slow where he'd hold up like a capo or a tuner and be like, do you know what this is? I'm like, okay, I just told you I know what that is. And then you start to feel a little, I don't know, patronized. And then it was such a slow
Yeah.
process. And I'm so impatient. I was like, I have to quit. I'm not going
yeah.
to learn how to play guitar.
It's hilarious.
Okay, I'm a huge quotes person, and as soon as you said, about the parent thing, there's a quote that I'll read sometimes whenever I do a speech, especially to kids, and it's, you're grown when you start to see your parents through the eyes of an adult instead of the eyes of a child. You
Yeah.
finally see how much they've sacrificed for you your whole life, and that you'll understand when your older phrase that we all used to hate starts making sense. You see that they have their own struggles that you never considered as a child, because at the time they were too busy trying to make sure we didn't have any struggles. It's crazy. It is in like I've gotten to that point now where it's like, all right, like I can actually really appreciate how much my parents, did for us and obviously still continue to do for us. And so in saying that, like, how has that kind of shaped, your perspective now and like being grown, I guess, even like in like the quote, like, is that something that's just kind of made you reflect on the younger years? Because I know in like a lot of your writing, like time, like Riles wanted to talk about it, but like time is a huge thing for you.
Yeah.
So has that reflection kind of made you, gain a little bit more perspective into that like side of things, or?
Yeah, I definitely feel very nostalgic about my childhood. I think it's kind of funny because to me it felt very quintessential and it felt very average. And I felt like every other kid and I had the same experience. And when I'm putting out poems on the internet talking about like, getting picked up from sleepovers and having dinner at the table and all this stuff, a lot of people are in the comments being like, that must have been nice. Like I didn't live like that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I thought everybody, and that's
Yeah.
not a good way of thinking because obviously not everything goes that way. But for me anyway, everything felt so normal and it makes me nostalgic for it, right? Like those times from before. But it's interesting because as an adult, when you start to understand, I realize more now that it's my childhood actually wasn't as normal as everybody else's. Like I learn now that like we actually had a lot less money than I thought we did. And my mom tells me stories about like just like certain situations where she didn't know what we were gonna do, and I'm like, what? And I just didn't know. And I mean, I knew
Yeah.
to an extent, like I knew I wasn't going to get a car for my 16th birthday, but I also didn't think that we were like having a struggle. And I don't know, it's really kind of taught me that, and I think it's something that I'll want to bring into my future life, if I'm lucky enough to be able to have kids and stuff like that, just like a pair, a good, I mean, good parents can come in all different cookie cutters, right? But as I consider a really good parent, not letting me know when there was something to worry about, and I can definitely take that with me. But one thing that really sticks with me the most about when I was a kid is that my mom has the same like career that I do. So she was radio host too, and she did it in the mornings.
Oh,
And because she was a single mom, if we didn't have a babysitter, I would have to go to work with her. And she was like around my age, and I can't imagine. I already have enough trouble getting out the door in the morning on time by myself. So imagine like me having to go to work and explain to my co-host like I'm bringing my kid in today because I need the money. Like it's just it all comes around, and now that I'm doing this career and I'm in a good place and I've had a wonderful life, and I can afford things because she's like pushed me along and helped me, to get places. And I sit here like in a chair that she was in with like a lot more hardship surrounding it, and I'm like, holy, like I don't know if I could do it. So I think that's probably why I feel so nostalgic, because everything felt like it was right, and then to find out later that it actually wasn't. Like I don't know, it's just a lot of feelings and emotions tied into it. I've actually never told her any of this, so I don't know. Maybe I'll tell her to listen to this.
oh.
That's awesome.
Wait,
Yeah.
so sorry to Rouse to cut you off. I mean, obviously, it sounds like with just you and your mom, that is a pretty special bond. And so now that you have gotten into the like quite a bit into the writing world, and it's funny that you mentioned that you've never even really told your mom a lot of this. Like, what does that relationship look like now with your mom? Like, especially with you sitting in her chair and like doing what she did, and like now like having all this nostalgic feelings, like what's mom and Josie's relationship like?
It's kind of funny because we really did fight a lot when I was growing up,
Yeah,
and we have a good relationship. We talk on the phone every Sunday. Like it's like, but it is like we have friend moments, but it is very mother daughter. Like I really do look at her as like my she's obviously my friend too, but she's my mom. Like she's pinnacle of safety. Like if I'm like, oh, I need help, I would call my mom. And I think it's kind of really maintain that like mother daughter, where sometimes I'm like, you still think of me as a little kid and I still feel like a little kid when I'm around you, and then it still causes us to butt heads sometimes. So it's interesting, but we obviously get along way better now as grown-ups, and we talk all the time, and she lives far away, so like I can't see her all the time, but
yeah,
um we have a relationship that will never not be, like we'll always
yeah,
be a mom daughter and operate on that wavelength together.
I wanted to go back to the time
Yeah.
topic. You the one song I think was titled "How the Fuck Am I About to Be 30" or something like
Oh,
that.
oh my God, I forgot
I
about
like
that
I
one.
went I went down your page. I was telling Ty earlier too. I was like, there must have been dust or something in my kitchen, or like I had the swollen Adam's apple on some of the, especially the ones that had to do with like time passing, because I feel like I'm a very nostalgic person, and I really really love old things. I love old music. I love like vintage clothes, like that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so when like you talk about like high school or like the MSN, you signed in on MS, like that stuff just hit me hard. And I did like,
Yeah.
I guess the question is like, why, why do you have that? Because there were a couple other pieces too, I think, that sort of related to time passing and things like that. So like, why is that a topic for you, or why is that like of interest to you, or do you like struggle with it a bit, like wishing that you were still maybe wishing it was 10 years ago or wishing it was 20 years ago because things were
Yeah.
easy? Um, so like, I guess that's my question.
I'm really glad you said the last part, because I was like, how am I gonna? I couldn't really land on it until you said, "Do you wish it was the
Yeah.
before?" And yeah, like my co-host Greg says it all the time. He goes, "You love the past," and I'm like, "I
Yeah.
do," and I really glorify the things I've been through and not what I'm going through, and I really focus on how much I miss what was happening before, without really coming to terms with how much I'm going to miss this later.
Hmm.
And I will feel all of that like excitement and sadness, I guess, for today in a few years when things are different. And it's
Hmm.
hard because when you are somebody who lives like that, you never really do enjoy the moment. And I
For
really
sure.
struggle with presence and stuff. But yeah, I definitely just feel really lucky. And I think that I've had a really nice life. And I like to say that because it wasn't nice because of like money or nice cars or expensive clothes. It was just nice because of the people that I was around. And I got really lucky to have a lot of amazing friends. And I got really lucky to have an amazing family. And I don't know, it's just, I just can't believe how good it's been,
Mhm.
even with bad things. Like I've had struggles and stuff. And it's interesting too because I had somebody comment something once on a post that really resonated with me, and I talked about how I had like a big weight loss journey, and I like lost a bunch of weight, and somebody commented saying, I like you better knowing that you struggled, because I thought that your life was perfect and it made me not be able to relate to you.
Mhm.
And that kind of really stuck out to me because I just feel like, I don't know, I think the reason that I like my life so much is because I've struggled, and I actually can't think of anything that I go back. I wouldn't go back and be like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do that. And I wish I didn't have to do that journey. I wish I could have just skipped a part and like just been healthier. Like, I don't know. I think I
Mhm.
really reminisce on time because I've had such a good time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the exact same. Like I struggle to sometimes when things get like a little chaotic in my life right now, I'm like, dang, why can't it just be like 10 years ago where I
Yeah.
didn't really have these worries? But then too, like it's so good to have those memories and everything, but then you're right. It's good to have a balance of it, to be understanding of the position
Yeah.
you're in, and then
And
also
it's easier for other people to like kind of put you into perspective. But one of my girlfriends is planning a wedding, which is so exciting. And like you guys are engaged now too, Tyler. That's so exciting. Congratulations. You're gonna deal with this as well.
Thank you.
And like it's funny because she was like, this is gonna be so stressful. And I was like, yeah, but when ever again are you gonna stress about planning a wedding? And she was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, that's so true. And I was like, so just enjoy stressing about it. Like you're planning your wedding. Like hopefully your only one ever. Like this will be the most stressful time ever, but you're gonna be like, remember when we were planning our wedding when you're like dropping
Yeah,
your kids off at college, you know? So it's just it's really hard to
for
do.
sure.
But if you can try to picture how you're gonna feel about today in 10 years, you'll be like, wow, I'm really gonna miss this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got two quotes.
Okay.
Once you've been in the dark, you learn to appreciate everything that shines. I think that is kind of
Love that.
reflective of that comment. And then the other quote I love is like, it's not your experiences, but your reflection on your experience that leads to obviously that growth. And I think it's interesting to
Love
like
that.
look back on like that growth of like of how you got here. And I'm a firm believer that, you should celebrate your small victories and, essentially just be proud of yourself. And I think it's been such a unique 2 years or 3, 4 years for people. I saw a tweet today and it was like, it's interesting to look back on like 2019 to 2024. And it's like essentially a blur, like for a lot of people. And so I guess now I'm leading into the question of past, present, future. Like how have you found that balance now? Have you obviously mentioned that, being present is same thing with me. Like,
Mhm.
and we did it on the race and we were so fortunate to be able to be so solely present because there's no connection to the outside world, there's no phone, like it's just you and your partner, and you're so solely focused on what's going on and what's going on around you and what's going on in the present. But then you're also looking forward to the future, and you're constantly analyzing things and how things are going to go. So I guess especially in your life right now, because once again, let's pump your tires. I mean, it's been amazing to see how many people have recognized your work, and to see how many people have used your audios and to or used your words. So now, as you look forward into the future, while also trying to stay present in these moments of triumph, of memories, like how have you found that balance, if you even have at this point, because it has been crazy lately?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think just to kind of touch on what you said about the last 4 years being so weird and like something that none of us ever expected. I think about that all the time in the sense of like who would, this is gonna sound so lame probably, but like who would we be if that didn't happen? And I think it's like surreal to think about in the same way that what's happening right now is surreal. I think back to 2020, sitting alone in an apartment and like not even having anybody hug me for 4 months straight. Like I was alone. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but
No, no, give her. Yeah.
it's interesting because I wonder all the time who I'd be if that didn't happen. And like I think that's one of the hardest things that any of us are going to have to go through ever. And it was just like such a piece of like isolation and all that. So I think back to that and I feel like almost nostalgic for it because I like remember like the ache of it, like it was just hard. So I don't think that any of us like are even near what we would be today if we didn't have to do that, because I think in the back of all of our minds we're all like, what would have happened instead? Like if we
Mhm.
didn't, if we were allowed to see each other for all those time, and this never happened, there was never any vaccines or truck rallies or fights or any, like what happened instead, you know? And like
Yeah.
how did you evolve? But that, I think about that all the time. But that's a whole other existential crisis that I'm having. Um, but as for like right now, trying to stay present and then also think about the future. This last like few honestly months, like since October, I literally just every single time something happens, I can't believe it. Like I'm just like, what the, like I post one thing and I'm like, because I post on the internet all the time, every day, twice a day, probably for the last 10 years. Like I don't even know how long, all through COVID. And then suddenly I post this one thing and everyone's like, oh wait, this is what you're meant for. And I'm like, this. So then I do another one. And I'm like, still? And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. Another one still? Yeah. All right. Really interesting. Okay. And like every time it's just validating me to be like, okay, so you found something. You were like digging and you like actually came across something and now you have it. And I don't think that's going to go away. So like it's really hard because I am thinking about the future and I'm like, did I just uncover something that I'm meant for? Like, is this something that like I don't have to worry now? Like this is, I found a thing I'm good at, you know? Or is it temporary and it's gonna
Yeah.
end? So what I'm really trying to do is take it day by day and not be like, hey, a year from now I might be boo, you know? But then if you're not manifesting that, you're kind of screwing yourself over, because I was telling my boyfriend, I was like, I will say something like very crazy. I'll be like, we're gonna be a millionaires. Like, I don't know. I'll be like, we're gonna win the lottery. It's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine, right? And like every time I buy a lottery ticket, I'm like, well, this is it. I can't believe we have $100,000. Like, what are we gonna do with it? And he's always the voice of reason that's like, hey, like, stop ordering shit on Amazon. You don't have $1 million. Like, you need to be better. And I just keep telling him that we need to be dreamers right now. And I'm like, I need you to just take what I say, and even if it is the most like grandiose, aggressively positive, annoying thing, and it's kind of like unlike me, just be like, I'm excited for that too. And then if the time comes where I'm like, I'm gonna quit my job and move across the world, be like, no, don't do that. Like then stop me. But right now, while it's just a dream, dream with me. Like let's do it together, and then we can hopefully like pull these things in. But right now, it's been easier to stay present because I feel like every day could be the last day of people taking to what I've been doing. So it's been easier to be day to day the last few months than it has been in a long time.
It's like your Taylor Swift manifesting that I've seen. A couple videos once again,
Oh
multiple
my gosh.
videos.
Yeah,
I sound like the biggest creep ever now.
no, I love it. I love it. This is great.
Did that ever come true? Did you get to see her at all or
No.
no? No, okay.
Okay, well,
No.
Putting it out there.
You and Kat can go because Kat made me watch the Eras Tour, right? The Eras Tour movie, and I mean, she was in tears, and I'm like, I was not really into whole like watching a concert
Yeah.
on television, and then I actually watched it, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I thought to myself, this would be so incredible in person, like just
Yeah.
like the yeah,
I've heard that.
I
So I've been
get
to
up,
a
get on
bunch
your Taylor Swift, yeah,
been to a bunch of Taylor Swift concerts. I think she's one of
yeah,
the like incredible writers of our time. I'm not a Taylor. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. I have like tattoos and stuff. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan in the sense that I like go and bully the people in her songs. Like, I'm not going to go to Harry Styles comments and be like, "Fuck you," like I'm not like that. But
yeah.
I'm listening and I'm aware of every word she's ever written, and I like think I've learned a lot from her. I love what she stands for. I think she's a badass. Like she literally just carried herself to the top. That being said, I misunderstood your question. I thought you meant, did I meet her? Have I met her? I have not met her. I've been to like 5 or 6 concerts, and I did get tickets to go see her in Toronto in November.
Okay.
So I will.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are going.
Yeah.
Nice.
They were crazy expensive, but I think should be worth it. I have a lot of friends getting married, so I might have to like sell them and go to a wedding or something. But if that doesn't happen, I will absolutely be going to that concert. But she's definitely been like an inspirational point in my writing journey for sure. Her along with like a lot of other artists that I think are incredible songwriters. But yeah.
I never was on this Swiftie train. I probably was like a little like again like like oh I'm a man like Taylor Swift blah, blah. But
Yeah.
as of late like say like the last year, and I feel like as she started to like, I mean the whole, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of like taking her songs that were hers and recreating them the way she wanted to, like, I think that's amazing. And then once I started seeing all the news about like how she treats her truck drivers and the stage people, like, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of made me
Okay, I'm gonna cut
a
you off
little
because you
more.
sent me a playlist, and Riley sent me this playlist, and I'm listening to this playlist. November 23 called it, and I'm in the
Mhm.
car, and all of a sudden, Lover and then Anti-Hero come on, and I'm like,
Those are two
yeah,
bangers.
and
They're
don't get me wrong, great songs, but I'm thinking to myself now, Kat thinks I'm a full blown Swiftie. This isn't my playlist. Sorry.
I think that
That's
like, so
hilarious.
my number one thing with the whole Taylor Swift thing is like, okay, yesterday I saw a video of a girl and she was doing like, here's my, it wasn't like an ins and outs, but it was like a my unpopular opinions kind of video. Okay. She's going off and she's saying, I don't think that like, she said something about how she doesn't like body positivity and she doesn't like this because of this and whatever. And I was kind of watching going like, I don't know about this girl. And then I was like, but you know what? Like to each their own. So I'm still watching. And I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna let this girl have her opinion. I'm never gonna comment on someone's video and be like, you're wrong, because that's just something I literally would never do. But I get to a point where she goes, and Taylor Swift is overrated, and everyone who likes her is just so annoying. And I blocked her. I don't even know her. She didn't even follow me. I blocked her. And I was like, and it wasn't even a matter of like a Taylor Swift thing. It's a matter of, and the reason that I get so upset when anybody says anything to anybody about liking Taylor Swift, and I experienced this because I talk about it on the radio. People text me, oh, she's a loser. Wow, like I don't get it. I'd be like, you don't need to get it. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that being a fan, a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people aren't a big fan of something. And I think that being a fan of something is like one of the greatest joys in life. And my dog obviously disagrees. But if you are lucky enough to be a fan of anything, I don't think it's anybody's right to stand in your way unless it's something really messed up. Like if you're,
Mhm.
I'm not going to give examples, but aside from if it's something that's hurting people, just let me love something. And
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
biggest clip with Taylor Swift haters. It's just like I don't care what it is that you love. I'm gonna let you love it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's such like a worldwide issue. I feel like you could, there's so many things that fall into that, like th- with like different levels of severity. Like once
Yeah.
you start, like your music is like here, sports is here, and then it gets to like politics and, you know, like religion,
Sexuality,
and then
any of it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then people like, it's just crazy. Like,
Anger almost always stems, in my experience, from misunderstanding. And I think that the angriest people are not even understanding the thing that they're mad about.
mhm,
And like the people who get so mad about politics don't really understand the other side because that's not the side they're on. People who get really mad about gay rights don't understand why people love people of the same sex
mhm,
because they don't. And you don't have to be mad because you don't understand, but for some reason those emotions pair. And I sometimes just give people a little bit of grace when they are so mad because I try to think of them as a little kid who just doesn't get it. And like,
mhm.
if they're not going to take the time to learn, they're never going to understand and they're going to stay mad. And then you have to live mad. And I didn't get mad. And that was
Yeah,
probably even worse for you than if I did. And I think that that's like kind of a good way to look at things because people just get so mad when they don't understand. And that's why
for
people
I
don't
sure.
like Taylor Swift.
I think I think it's great because it ties. I just did a speech with you might know her, Dr. Jody Carrington is her name,
Yeah,
and
I've heard.
so I did this speech, and I finally like I've been into the public speaking world, but I haven't had the opportunity to like actually listen to a lot of other speakers, and I got the opportunity to listen to her, and she is one that'll tackle indigenous like gay rights, like everything. And she said it perfectly with land acknowledgments. Every time we are coming from this treaty, this territory, wherever. And she was like, people got to a point where it's like, oh, we're doing this again. Like we said, sorry. And she said it perfectly. She said, we're not, in no way did the indigenous people ask for an apology. Like all they wanted was to be acknowledged and all they wanted was to not be forgotten. And she
Yep.
said it perfectly. She said, as soon as we start to acknowledge, then we rise. And I think that's so true in the
Yeah.
case of if we can actually have that acknowledgement and then that understanding, I mean, there could be so many things that start to, make a little bit more sense and allow us to have a little bit more empathy for people and allow us to have a little bit more compassion for people. But it all honestly comes back to that acknowledgement factor of like, I'm going to acknowledge your side. I'm going to acknowledge your perspective. I'm going to acknowledge what we're doing. I'm going to acknowledge what you're going through. And then we're going to work through it from there. And I think that's like, even in some respects, why I speak is I want people to acknowledge April 6, 2018. And I want people to never forget. As much as I'm not talking about that team every single minute of every talk I do, at the end of the day, it all stems from that. And I want people to acknowledge that. And so I don't actually have a question. So that was my rant. Thanks for coming.
No,
No,
that
I
was
love it.
great.
Yeah.
I love the rant, and it is true. Like I literally could not have said that better myself. I think that is just, it's just good to be able to think that way. And if the whole world was full of people who can't, that would be really unfortunate. And I like don't even know how much longer humanity would exist for, because it would be impossible. So some people do have to have that kind of level head, and I think often what's not realized by people who make the most noise is there's less of them. Like the quiet people aren't making, there's more quiet people, but we're just not saying anything. And obviously you need to make noise in certain situations, but sometimes you need to acknowledge, like, are you mad because people are not saying anything? Are you mad because they're not saying what you want them to say? Because I've seen a
Right.
lot of people say, oh, if you have a platform, you should be acknowledging this or this or this or this. And I'm like, okay, but if I acknowledged it in the wrong way, I would still be wrong. So it's, I don't know, it's just like it's tough to
Mhm.
live right now, because you never know what is going to be the right thing or the wrong thing, and what's going to be offensive and what's going to not. And the most you can do is like educate yourself and try to take a stance where you can see all perspectives. And if the situation allows it, you can feel a certain way and not tell everyone. Like you can just believe quietly.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, and I think what you've done such a good job of is creating that authentic space. And I can imagine that obviously that is, from your radio hosting world to your writing world to your poetry world to your music world. I think at the end of the day, like you said, you've been through a lot and you've been through the dark, and now you appreciate everything that shines a little bit more. So to be able to, have that perspective of, I'm just going to do my best to create a space. And I think that's one thing that you've been able to do. And I wonder how you've been able to maintain that, because at the end of the day, I've experienced the highs and lows of social media, and it is a wild world. Like, I'm not into the TikTok side of things as much as make Cat maybe is, but even the first anniversary of the crash, I released 16 balloons. I got like 16,000 likes on this tweet, and I got like 3 comments saying you're gonna kill the birds, and I'm like, okay, I deleted the tweet. Like, I literally was like, I can't do it, and so it's like as simple as that. And so I wonder how you've been able to maintain that. And I mean, obviously, you've been doing this for quite some time and you've been posting for a while, but you've also been very graceful in the fact that you are just saying your words and you're doing your best to create that culture where it's like, okay, this is relatable. This is just my words. This is what I'm trying to talk about. But you've been able to maintain that. Like, how has that been for you?
So like it's honestly like kind of funny how the shift in the people that my stuff has reached
Yeah.
between before, when I was just posting whatever, and now. And I have just hit a not angry crowd. And
Wicked.
the worst I have gotten is I don't feel this way. They were
Okay.
like, I don't agree. And I'm like, well, that's okay. Like we grew up different. Or like, well, I do judge people like that. I'm like, well then, that's you. Like
Mhm.
if I personally have never. So that's why I wrote this. But if you don't agree, you can just, and like it's hard not to get caught up. The first time a video of mine ever went viral, I could not stop reading the comments. And actually, no, this happened twice. And it was separated. One time I did a little video where it was like a voiceover challenge. And you read the scripts on the screen from this guy that has an account where he does stuff like that. And I read the scripts, and people were like, holy crap, you sound like the Spotify girl. And I was like, oh, cool. So those nice comments. And then people started coming and being like, your forehead is huge. You have such a bad lisp. You look like, everyone thinks I look like Michael Jackson. I don't know. I had to block the words Michael Jackson out of my freaking comments. I was like, I don't know what's happening. But anyways, so I post that video and that happened, and I could not stop reading the comments. It was right when I met my boyfriend, and I'd be like over here scrolling, being like just looking, be like, oh my god, look at this, look at that. And he was like, you have to stop. And then I didn't. And that video like hurt my own feelings. I was like, I was just trying to do a little challenge on the internet. I didn't do anything to hurt you. And then I posted another video about my, it was like that one thing about me challenge. I don't know if you remember it, but I posted a video and it was me talking about having a weight loss journey and then getting a plastic surgery and then getting a septic blood infection and I almost died. And at the end of it, I said, but you know what? Like I actually like was really happy with the result and maybe I don't regret it kind of thing. And then people took from that, you are like fat phobic. You would rather die than be fat, it sounds like all this stuff. And I was like, no. And I never used any of those, like any of these terms. I was like, I just was saying that it ended up being all right because everything turned out okay. If I died, I wouldn't be like, I still would have done it. Like, obviously not. But it's just people will take this and then you start to panic and be like, is that how I came across? And you kind of forget that among those two or three or four people who misunderstood you, 10,000 people understood you. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to not let those few people who are angry not outweigh the many, many, many kind people who are supporting you. And now I don't look at comments like basically ever. I'll answer them for the first like 20 or 30 minutes. And then I actually have some messages from my friends and like people I've known being like, you should take a look at your comment sections. There's some really meaningful things there that I think you should respond to. So now I'm trying to kind of get back in to it because there's a whole other world. Like I posted a video the other day of a song that I wrote. It's about like throwing away someone's toothbrush when you break up and how hard that can be. And one of my friends reached out and was like, someone commented on that saying that their husband passed away like 10 years ago and they still have his toothbrush in their little. And I was like, oh my, seriously? So I went, found it, things like that I don't want to miss. And it's kind of hard to stay
Yeah.
positive when you're reading them. So I try not to read them, but then there's so much positivity mixed in. So it's kind of like a double edged sword. Sorry, that was such a long
Yeah.
answer.
That's a problem with Instagram. It's like there's just two polar opposite sides, and it's unfortunate that people just have the easy ability to voice their negative opinions, but then it's awesome that we can all support each other with the positive words, right?
Yeah,
So,
there was this one poem that I wrote, and it was like when you spend your whole life trying to be smaller, like just like lose weight, you forget about all the other things that are more important than the other small things that matter how more than how small you are. And then this therapist girl who is like a dietitian too, and I don't know, she's like a healthy anti-diet, which totally love it. But she dissects my video, starts talking about how like I lost weight and I'm still talking and like that this is not really the kind of poem that you want to be posting if like you've gone through a journey like this. And I was like, I didn't say that if you spend your whole life trying to take yourself on a health journey, then you're going to miss out. I said if you spend your whole life thinking about the size of your body, not like if you spend your whole life caring about, you know, what you're putting into your body. And like there's so many different ways that you can do that and so many different ways that looks. And you don't have to look a certain way to care about what you're putting in your body and stuff. But she took it in this whole flipped angle. And I was like, I was just talking about being uncomfortable in my jeans and wishing that
mhm.
I wasn't because I missed something important while I was feeling that way. And like anybody can take something and flip it. And it's like one of the scariest things because as more people start to watch and you get more eyes on you, there's going to be more people who are trying to figure out a way to prove that you're not a good person. And I'm like
For
scared
sure.
every day. I'm like, what if I say the wrong thing, So, yeah.
Do you write your stuff based off like just how you're feeling and like kind of what hits you, or do you ever like take into consideration like what's relatable to people based off like the action you're getting on certain videos, or is it more like just you feel like you're more relatable if it's just coming from what your
So
experience is, or
it's hard because I am writing entirely based on experience, and I think that eventually I'll run out of things to say because I haven't
Mhm.
lived that much life. And I think there's different words for every situation, and I could probably write 10 poems about being sad, and 10 poems about being happy, and 10 poems about hating myself, and it can be a never-ending thing in different words. But I get a lot of requests. And many of them are about awful things that I haven't experienced. Like, can you write a poem about losing your mom? Or can you write a poem about what it's like to not be able to have a baby? And I'm like, I'm
Probably
so
can't,
sorry
right?
that you're going through
Yeah.
that. And I haven't been through that. And I would almost feel like an imposter if I
Hmm.
tried to feel what you're feeling. But then at the same time, like, you look at some of the biggest authors ever, like, I don't know if Scott Fitzgerald ever lived like Gatsby. I don't know if he knew what it was like to have that much money, but he still wrote about it, and it was an amazing story. And I know that J.K. Rowling has her like things that she's done, and I'm not like saying that she's a good person, but as an example, she's not a wizard, but she wrote
Yeah.
about it. And I think that like there's room for me to explore writing what people want me to write about. But right now, all I can really do is I can definitely take note of the ones that resonate and try to capitalize on that in a sense that I want to write things that people relate to. So I keep those things in mind, but it's mostly just random ideas that I'll write down one line and then I'll turn it into something. And it's randomly, it'll just come, I'll be driving and be like, and then write down the one line when I'm like not driving. And then sit down later and write around a concept. But it
Yeah.
usually is just something that I've been through, which is kind of hard sometimes because I was writing a poem about like I met a poem about I mean I wrote a poem about Steve just being like if we met a little sooner, I don't know if this would have worked because we were so perfect for each other when we met, but what if you met me younger and I was too much, or like what if you weren't ready or whatever, and like everything just kind of works out in perfect time. And then someone said, "Can you write one about what if we met a little later?" And I told him I was going to write it. He's like, "I don't want to listen to that one." And I was
Nice.
like,
Did
"Yeah,
you
okay." He's
just
like,
release that one too?
"Yeah." He's like, "Cause I did it the next day." Because he was like, "You're going to write about someone that didn't work out with," and I was like, "Yeah, but it's not going to be." And I was like, "I don't know if it's going to be lovey. Like that would have been nice." And then I wrote it and it came out really mad. So I was like, "Okay, it's perfect. Like he's going to love it." But it it's kind of funny because I will write about like love situations and like people that have hurt me and people that I was in love with and things like that. And my boyfriend's listening to them being like, "Great, I love it. All right."
That's hilarious. I was listening to just quick story.
No,
It's kind of relatable to this, and it's sort of why I asked the question. I was listening to Rick Rubin's podcast with John Mayer. And I'm a really big John Mayer fan, and he's
Okay.
on his like most recent tour has just been his solo acoustic, right?
Yeah.
And what he was saying was he picks his set list an hour before he goes out to play the show, which
Yeah.
has been like really different for him. And he's just saying that like where he's at now in his career, like he thinks he'll give his audience like the best show by playing what's relatable. And maybe he misses like some big hits that they thought that they were going to see, but the relatability between the two and the connection that they're going to get and the energy that they're going to feel from him is going to beat out the song that they were hoping to hear. And I was like, that's got to be like the peak of your, in terms of your goals, like you've made it when you have that ability to go out and
Yeah.
play what you want and what you're feeling and have that energy be passed on to your listeners. I just thought that was really cool.
I think I heard him say something similar on the Call Her Daddy podcast when I listened to it last year. And it is so true in that I think eventually, though, you just get to know the people that you
Mm-hmm.
are with on your journey, even if you're the one standing in front of all of them and you're the one doing the writing and they're the ones doing the listening, you still get to know them because they let you know what resonated and what didn't. And
Right.
in that, like you'll only find peace in what you're doing if you're doing things entirely for you sometimes. So there's going to be those ones that you say, I don't think anyone's even going to like this, and that's fine. But I really like this, and I need to throw this one in there to keep my sanity.
Right.
And then you'll pick up on what other people love, and you will write for them. And I think that it's kind of a good way to think about it because then you're not thinking, I'm capitalizing on these people and knowing what their weak spot is. It's like, I know what you care about, and I'm going to write this for you. And I know that you are going to like this, and I know that I like this. And then if there's a
Mhm.
little in between, because I know you like me and the things that I like, and I like you, and I can write about the things that you like. And then there's just never going to be a space where nobody fits, It'll just be like good for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so another quote to relate off that is in seeking peace, the journey is as important as the result. And I think that's like very real of like at the end of the day, that journey aspect of you writing what you think that you love and might not hit with everybody else, like that result really doesn't matter as long as like that journey found you a lot of like solidarity and a lot of grace and a lot of peace. But the famous quote, I can't remember anyone I've ever seen at a public pool. I want you to take, because that,
I didn't know what quote
wow.
was coming. I was like, what's he going to say? Okay.
I like, do you remember like writing that? And like what was running through your mind when you wrote that? Were you like, people are gonna love this, people are, like, because let's be honest, like it took off, and as it should. It is a very relatable, raw thing that a lot of people have been through, like, not so much been through, but a lot of people have experienced that, of looking, and you don't remember, sometimes, and sometimes you do. So, like, almost like take us through that day, even like take us through that day of like writing that, like where did that spark come from, and then also take us through that when you realize that, holy shit, like this is kind of the one, and like this is kind of where, yeah, because it blew up.
Yeah, I did. That was shocking. I posted that on the last day, like the December 30th, like the last day of the year, basically. I wrote it here. I got back from Toronto and from Christmas, and I don't even know what I was thinking about. I was going somewhere to see people, and I think I had this thought cross my mind that was like, no one is gonna, like, your friends are not gonna look at you today and think she doesn't look good. I wonder how long she took to pick that outfit out. I wonder if she's comfortable in her body today. They're just going to be happy I'm there. And I'm going to be happy they're there. And when I'm with them, I'm not thinking, I wonder how your process of getting ready was today. How many pairs of pants did you try on? How upset were you? How did you explain this to your partner that you don't love yourself today? How are you like, I don't know. We're going to get together and we're going to bake something or talk about things or have some wine. And I'm going to have no idea what kind of crisis you had today. And I'm not going to think about it. And I think it's just a matter of like, if any part of your internal crisis is what other people think about you, they're just too busy thinking about themselves unless you've made an impact. And the way that you look will only make a temporary impact no matter what. I can name you the most beautiful stars in Hollywood, and if you were to ask me like, who's your hall pass, I would know. But like, I would never say, oh, they're so funny or they're so nice. I'd be like, yeah, she's hot or he's hot. I would, you know, and that's fine. Things are allowed to be beautiful, and you're allowed to admire them for that, and you're allowed to remember them for that. But that won't be the only thing. And I don't know. I think I just started thinking about that, and then I started thinking about pools, and like the thing that really got me was people were like, I remember something I saw at the pool when I was young, and I was kind of like, haha, you're so funny, whatever. But like, as somebody who experienced that and also had people make comments, like I went through a lot of that, and I still would, like, people still look at me, people still say things like, I was wearing a bikini at the pool on like one of the apartment rooftops in Calgary 2 summers ago, and a girl came up to me, and I have like kind of some stretch marks and scars and stuff, and she said, you're so brave for wearing that. And I was like, why? And she was like, I don't know, just because, like, you obviously like had like a journey, because you kind of see like my scar from my surgery and stuff. And I was like, but why am I brave? I didn't like think twice when I put this on this morning. And like, she's not gonna be like, oh, the girl at the pool with all the scars. I made her laugh a bunch later in the day because she was around the whole day, and I think that's, she'll be like, oh, that girl was really funny. I met her at a pool, you know. And like, it's just interesting to me the things that you think are going to stick with people. And a lot of people made a point to comment on that. And I was like, you might remember, but they didn't make an impact. You have a little bit of a picture, but you don't know them. And if you knew them, you would talk about it and they would have impacted you. And that's the thing that that people would remember. You don't know that person's name. You don't know anything about their family. You know nothing. You just have like a picture, and that doesn't matter. So anyways, the point is, I just had this whole existential crisis that sounds like it was an hour long, but it was actually probably about a minute. And then I just wrote down, I've never seen anyone at a public pool that I've ever remembered. And I put in my notes, and then I came home, and I probably wrote that in like 15 minutes. Like, I was just like,
What?
That's crazy.
and then I was like, I took a shower, and I was like talking to my boyfriend. I had like a little bit of a cold, and I was like, I think I'm gonna record something. I haven't posted something in a few days. He was like, right. And I went downstairs and I recorded it, and I came back up. I was like, I don't know if it's that good. I kept messing it up when I was reading it, and like, I look kind of ugly in this. And he's like, well, you're never ugly, but like, when's the last time you put makeup on for one of these? Like, just post it, whatever, who cares? And I posted it, and it did like all right. And then suddenly, every other video on TikTok, I was like, I've never seen someone at a, and my boyfriend's like, turn that down. Like, oh my God, how many times do I have to hear this? And I'm like, I never could have expected this. And yeah, I don't know. It's a very meaningful thing to me, because I think that the person that you are is so much more important than the person that you look like. And I just would never, of course I'll acknowledge if someone's good looking, but I'm not gonna come to work and be like, Greg, I saw the hottest guy. Oh, maybe, but then I wouldn't talk about it ever again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still thinking about that guy that I saw 2 years ago at the gas station. No, I don't know. It's
So
just so silly time we spend.
what's
What?
been like the sorry to cut you off. What's been like the resounding, like I guess, like message from the public, from TikTokers, from influencers of you that sound what has made you realize how much this connected with people? Like, what is that thing? I guess it has there, or is it just like all across the board? Like people are just connect on different aspects of it, or was there one that is just like this is why this did well?
I honestly don't even know if I've really clicked into the fact that it did impact anybody. And
Yeah.
kind of funny because there's been TikTok sounds that have trended before that really stick with me. Like this one girl did one, and she's kind of like read a poem. It's a nice song in the background. She's got a great voice, and she's like, "Yeah, if you're watching this, I want you to know that I'm doing okay." And like it kind of goes on, and she's like, "And I miss you all the time, but you won't know that ever." And blah blah. And so many people made videos to that, and I remember hearing it, going, "That is beautiful. I wish that I could have that in me forever." And the thought of that happening to anybody else listening to what I've written is like so crazy to me. And like, as much as I don't know how to believe it, I think that is what has happened in some cases. And I think what really resonated with me the most is when I wrote it, I realized for the first time, oh shit, I've never remembered someone for that. And I know that I've heard a lot that quote, like, your body or your is the least important thing about you, or your weight is the least interesting thing about you. Like I've heard that before, but I've never clicked into the fact that I've never remembered someone, and no one's ever made an impact because of something physical. It's just interesting to see other people have the same moment of peace, realizing that too. And as somebody who still hates taking my towel off and getting into the pool, or, like walking around with shorts on in the summer, or like wearing tank tops, I just hate it. Like, it's the only reason I don't enjoy summer is because I don't know how to feel comfortable in my body. And like, I try all the time. And just these little tidbits, if they can help anyone else the way that they can like help me along, or if I say something like that and I go, I think that's true. And then there's a lot of other people going, that is true, it's validating. And I'm like, okay, so we can all believe this then. That's great. And then we move forward with that thought. But yeah, that's probably what resonated the most.
Well,
I think you
Sorry,
do a
my
really
answer
good
was
job too.
so long.
You do a
no.
really good job at like using like as imagery the right word, like where you're like giving people like a something that like they can envision, and it's like
Yeah,
also
thank you.
relating to a topic and to a message. I love that about the one we were just talking about, the pool one. Do you ever like think how crazy it is? Like, I don't want this to come off rude at all, but like poetry of all things, like poetry to me seems like something
Lame.
that's like, yeah, honestly, it is. It
Like
kind of
what?
like it is, but like when you do it a certain way, it catches on like it has for you, and you obviously have a gift at doing it. Like even like I caught myself listening to Zach Bryan,
Oh
this
my
road I'm
God. The
this
poem
road
that
I'm on.
starts his album is like the
Yeah,
greatest thing. Yeah.
well, because I never knew of it. I had listened to his album, and that came on, and I was like, damn, like this is catching, like this plucking at my heartstrings. And then I listened to it again, and now it's a song that I listen to so much, and it's just amazing. Like something that you just think you won't like turns into something that you want to listen to and you want to relate to.
It's funny that you say that because my boyfriend heard that album before me because he like was listening on the way to work and I forgot that it had come out. And he was like, I think you're gonna really love the first track. And I started playing it and he was talking and I was like, this can't be the one he's talking about. And so I was like, my boyfriend doesn't like this is a poem. And then I listened to it and I was like entranced. I don't even know if I
Mhm.
ever got to the second song. I don't even know if I've heard it yet because that's the only one that I could listen to. And I think I actually posted my first one after that. And like thinking about it now, maybe that's kind of where I was like, oh, but
Mhm.
I've posted little things like that before, like before that, like in the summer, just a couple of like little ones that did okay. But I definitely like whenever we've played a couple of them on the radio, like once or twice. We don't really. I try to we keep it separate. Like we don't talk about it very much. But every time Greg, my co-host, says, "Well, Josie has a poem she's gonna read you," I'm like, "Oh my God, don't say it like that. Like, I was telling, I feel like I'm standing in front of a classroom and everyone hates me. Like, that's, and there's nothing wrong with poetry. I think it's so beautiful. And that's what music is. It's like a form of poetry. And a lot of my shit doesn't rhyme. It's just paragraphs that I say in a weird way. And now it's a poem. So I'm not saying that it's not an art form. I'm just saying that I never thought, like I was saying today, I was on the phone with this book agent and we were talking about me putting out a book and if I want to work with an agent or not and all that stuff. And I was like, you asked me in October if I was ever going to write a book. I would be like, what the hell? Why would I write a book? What a weird question. And now I'm like, anyone want to buy my book? And it's like done. And it's a poems. And whenever anybody mentions like, oh, your poems, I'm like, I sound like such a loser when you say that. And like, I can't explain, but I know it's not that way. It's just, but I know what you mean. It's definitely like, I'm like, wait, this was it? I've been
Yeah.
posting on the internet for 12 years and then and now I'm a friggin' poet? Like what? Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Ty, have you heard that Zach Bryan one?
I have, yeah, it's really,
Yeah.
and we're going. Kat and I and two friends are going to Toronto to see Zach Bryan in March. So
So
I hope
That'd be
that
awesome.
hopefully like it just like starts with that because it is like just so like I never thought I'd like something along those. I mean, he's got a great voice. Don't get me wrong. Like I think he's got a voice that can put you in a good mood. But I thought that was just like holy shit. Like, well, what is this? But it's so good at the same time.
he's a
Keisha
talented
and I
writer.
too. The one thing I like about it is like it doesn't have to mean one thing. I feel like it's like it caught her differently than it caught like my wife. It caught her differently than it caught me, and we both had a little bit of a different interpretation, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And like music does that all the time, but like the way like the writer writes it a certain way, and whatever he feels or whatever he pictures, and he tells his own story. But I feel like that one does a good job at like almost leaving it up for your own interpretation.
You're just hearing him like say all these things and like comparisons and when you're saying I was like floored in my car after being like, the fuck did I just listen to? Like that was incredible. I don't even know why. And yeah, I know, I agree. I thought that was so good.
Wow, that was the quickest hour of 2022, 2024 for me. That. I mean, that honestly flew, and we're gonna like. I want to finish obviously with because I love the country music world, and I've been able to, been fortunate to meet quite a few people in the country music space. Like, talk about that space a little bit, like just to like bring some light into how many amazing people you've met through that space and at the end of the day, also a lot of people that have probably inspired you. Whether it's that Zach Bryan poem, and realistically, some of Taylor Swift stuff is technically country. And Kat told me that I am the folklore era. If I had to be chosen for an era, so yeah, I found
I
that
can
out.
kind of sense that already. And I barely listen.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, being in the country space and being in the country music world, like how has that, I guess, kind of shaped your life a little bit, and what have you been able to learn from a lot of amazing people in the industry?
It's just been I came from like the pop world of radio, and in that world, like a lot of pop people just don't have time for you, and that's because they're busy. And it's like a whole different universe. Whereas country music is like if you see Dua Lipa, you see Dua Lipa, you know it's Dua Lipa. If you saw Kane Brown at the store, you might not. If the song was playing, you'd be like, oh, this is Kane Brown. And if he was in the checkout line in front of you, you might be like, hey, like I just there's a disconnect somewhere, and like
Yeah.
they are just so easy to talk to and so easy to approach and so like not attainable, but they take the time for you. So like they're just word like interviews don't really exist in that other world, and like unless you are the person who does them all, and that person has a lot of time or something really big going on. Whereas like in country music, they're pretty like down home in the sense that they are always like, I'm so grateful to radio for what you guys have done and that kind of stuff. With that have come a lot of amazing opportunities to meet some really, really cool people that I've been like heavily influenced by and listening to for years. It's just been like kind of surreal. My first day at work, we got to do one or an Old Dominion, I was say One Direction, Old Dominion interview. And Old Dominion's one of my favorite bands. They were like they played on February 14th on Valentine's Day, 2020. And that was the last concert I saw for like 2 years or longer.
We went to that one.
Yeah. And like I was there and I just remember like that they played a song that was like Kenny Chesney is Save It for a Rainy Day, but they wrote it, so they played it. And that was like my breakup song after my first relationship ended. I was in a relationship on Valentine's Day that year, and I remember thinking to myself, that song was playing, and I was like, I'm gonna need this song again soon, I think. And the next day, my relationship ended, and then COVID started, and I was like,
Oh
anyway, so we
no.
talked to them, and I was like, you shaped this like really big next chapter of my life. I remember standing at that concert being like, I'm gonna be alone, I think, for a bit. Like, I think this is about to happen. And like I got to tell them that, and they were so receptive to it, and they like chatted with me, and like they remember every time we talk to them. And like it's just things like that. And like we met Blake Shelton, and my boyfriend said it's an honor, and he said the honor's all mine. And I was like, you are Blake Shelton. You don't have to say that. And like it's just like kindness and taking the time, and it has really humanized famous people for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to kind of realize that famous people are just people who are talented and rich. And they're a lot of them are really nice, and like I don't know, it's just been so I feel so blessed for like all the time that the country music world gives to like the little people like me who just want to ask them some questions, you know. It's really really cool, and it's really down to earth.
Sorry,
It's
we just
yeah, we
can you
got
hear?
a little
Yeah,
Slater
Yeah.
man.
sorry. He just made a quick appearance.
um I know he's technically your competition, but do you know Chris Sheets then pretty well from Kissing
Oh yeah,
Country?
he's
And
not. He's also chorus, so they're like the sister station
oh,
or brother
perfect.
station, whatever. Yeah, so yeah,
Okay, yeah, we got a lot. I got so much love for Chris, Chris, Jack, and Matt. I mean, they're incredible. But also, like,
so
even to
sweet.
touch on that, like Thomas Rhett, like the year, I think maybe the year after the accident. I mean, he brought down any family from that was involved in the Humboldt accident, and just like brought any. He's like, come on down. I got a room rented for you guys, like free booze, like everything, and like
Wow.
I've stayed in touch with his drummer ever since, and like it was funny because every single like mom and girlfriend that went up to Thomas Rhett was like, I love your wife, and then of course like him and his little
Yeah.
southern accent was like, I love her too,
Yeah.
like just like yeah, just
Oh
like
my god.
so. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's amazing, like
Yeah.
yeah, she's incredible. But it's just like that's a perfect way of putting it. It just like it humanizes like those individuals, and it just makes you
Yeah.
realize that like there's so much good, and there is a lot of good people in that space. Like from Paul Brandt to Thomas Rhett to Brett Kissel. Like I mean, all across the board.
Oh yeah.
It's just been incredible. And like I wanted to ask that because I know that I've experienced how much good the country world has, and I know that you have as well. And I just wanted to, emphasize like how amazing those people are.
It's very awesome. Like my
Yeah.
co-host has been in the world for longer than me, and like he's
Yeah.
taught me so much about just like human interaction and like presence and how to do an interview and all that. And it's just interesting how much you get to know people when you're actually listening to them. And I feel like country music artists really make it easy to listen because you're not making you nervous, because you're just like, okay, you're just a person, you know, and
Yeah.
but they act like it. And that's just like been so helpful to me in my career and my ability to like speak to people and stuff. So it's all been like such a full circle, and it's been so cool. But yeah, they are wonderful.
We went to Quincy Thunder right before COVID, and Jordan Davis was there, and we got in
Oh
touch with
yeah.
Jordan Davis's team, and all of a sudden Kat and I found ourselves in Jordan Davis's trailer, and we're doing
Oh
like his
my
pre show shot with him. And now it's
god.
like
Oh my
crazy to
god.
think about like how much success he's had. But like just like the same thing, it stems from him just being like an incredible human being. And like
Yeah.
don't
He's
get
just
me
nice.
wrong, that pre-show shot was gas. It was awful, but I was like, that is something I will remember forever. Like it's just like it's so neat. But yeah.
They give you an experience. Really nice.
Exactly. That is the best way to put it. Riles, you
Yeah.
got any final burning questions?
No, I mean, that was great. I love talking music. I guess I love talking poetry now. I don't know if I'd
Yep.
ever
You
thought I would
are
have
a
said
poem
that.
fan. You
Yeah,
should put
no,
that
that
in
was
your bio. Like I love poems.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
and then you'll start to get them kind of sent to your For You page by all of them. But there's so
Maybe
many.
one
Like
day it'll just go to poet.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you should start writing them yourself. Nah, there's talented poem writers on TikTok. Like I stop and I'm like entranced by so many of them being like, "You wrote that? That's crazy."
We got to create our own Dead Poet Society.
Well,
Just an idea.
I got a lot of time on my hands now, so
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Josie, it's I go back to it. Let's continue to pump your tires. It's incredible to see how much success you've had lately, and also just like how you're still just Josie, and like I think that in the best way possible. Like
No, yeah,
I
that's
mean that
really,
in like
yeah,
the biggest compliment of like you have just authentically stayed your true self. And it's been so refreshing to scroll through TikTok and hear, the audios from you. And so, I mean, I can't wait for the book. I can't wait for what's next. I can't wait for, to see what's happening. And I mean, yeah, once again, I just can't thank you enough for coming on. And I can't wait for Kat and I. We'll have to grab a couple pints.
yeah, I would love
Hopefully here soon. Yeah, let's do it.
that. Fabulous.
Whether it's a concert, whether it's we'll figure something out. But once again, I mean, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's like so cool that you wanted me to do this. Like, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.